Welcome to the Virtual College Exploration Series for all Missouri students, sponsored by the Missouri Association of College Admission Counseling and StriveScan. Thank you for joining us. A few housekeeping items before we get started. You can use the Q&A button on your screen to type questions to our presenters at any time. Your camera and microphone are off, so the panelists cannot see or hear you. This is just one of the many different sessions happening, so be sure and check out the full schedule at MOACAC.org. The presentation is being recorded and will be available within about a week at the same website at MOACAC.org. Now I'd like to turn it over to our presenters.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Hello and welcome to Test Optional. What does that really mean? On the next slide here, we're going to just recap the topics that we're going to cover tonight. Kim, if you
Sorry, Linnell. I'll get that here.
Oh, you're good. I'm going to go ahead and start talking about those topics as that slide comes up. So we're going to cover why are colleges and universities moving to test optional? Is test optional becoming a common practice? How will admission decisions be made without a test score? Will I need a test score to be eligible for merit and other scholarships? Will I still need a test score to get into my degree program? And if I don't have a test score, what high school GPA will I need to have? So with that, we are going to introduce ourselves as presenters. We're going to go in the order on the slide. I'm Linnell Hahn. I'm the Director of Admissions at Southeast Missouri State University. My contact information is there, as it is for each of us. We do have a hard stop at 6:45, so if you have a direct question for us that we're not able to get to, feel free to reach out to each of us directly.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. So excited to host this panel with you all tonight. So I have awesome colleagues joining me. My name is Alora Thomas. I serve as the Interim Director of Admissions at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, RU Up. We are ready to talk about this test optional and what it means for you moving forward.
Hi, my name is Kim Segrist, and I'm the Executive Director of Enrollment Management at Missouri Western State University. We're glad you're all here, and we'll move forward with getting into test optional. What does that really mean?
So our next slide covers, why are colleges and universities moving to test optional admission? So I have a few headlines that I'm sure you're familiar with. You registered for the ACT, but you're unable to take the test now. Or high school seniors are struggling with ACT cancellation and system crashes, hitting roadblocks with testing sites remaining closed. I hope that, maybe several of you got to take the ACT this past Saturday. But we know that there are still significant challenges with access to taking a standardized test. And then there's other things on this slide talking about, moving to test optional with improved equity. We've talked about lack of testing options, and then scores that just don't accurately reflect a student's ability. Anything else the other panelists want to add to the why?
I think that, again, the data over the years have shown that the things we just mentioned, equity, lack of access to testing, and taking the test over and over, trying to get a certain score. But the data shows if you go back and look at those students' core GPAs or their GPAs, that's a better indicator of how successful they're going to be rather than the standardized testing. And so I think that COVID-19 has kind of pushed a lot of universities and colleges to reevaluate their data. And after looking at that data over the last 10, 15 years, they're seeing that GPA is a better indicator than a test score.
And that's exactly what happened at Missouri Western. Our institutional research started looking at, students from the last 3 to 6 years and their completion rates. And the high school GPA really was a better indicator of their grit and determination to get through their degree, maybe even more so than that test score. So we were already, as many were, looking at going test optional. Obviously, COVID moved that up for us as it did for a lot of us, I know. So yeah, along those same lines.
So on our next slide, the question that we're going to answer is becoming test optional a common practice, or is this temporary due to COVID-19? There's a site that's listed here on this slide. It talks about the National Center for Fair and Open Testing. So when you go to fairtest.org, you'll learn that the test optional movement actually began more than 50 years ago. And, you know, there are national organizations that are really dedicated fully or in part to advancing access to college by promoting alternatives to standardized tests. You know, we've established already that GPA, cumulative GPA, is a better indicator of being, you know, successful in college. And so this website does track a list of test optional schools, and it started tracking it back in 2005. And now 15 years later, more than 1,500 accredited four-year colleges and universities nationwide are test optional for fall of 21. And that includes 38 in the state of Missouri. So, you know, we here as a panel can't speak for the 1,500 that are on this site that are listed as test optional, if it's going to be a permanent move or a temporary move. But I think we can each maybe speak to our institution's approach to test optional. And I'll start with Southeast Missouri State University. So we made this move 2 years ago in fall of 2019 before COVID happened. And again, it went back to the research and data of what was the best indicator of a student being successful at Southeast. And it wasn't that standardized test score. And so for us, this is a permanent change. Now we're continuing to tweak what our guidelines are to be admitted through test optional, but definitely permanent at Southeast.
Yes, and at UMKC, we went test optional in January of 2020. We were finalizing the data in the fall of 19 and went fully test optional in January of 2020. Again, looking at the data of our students over the last 3 to 6 years, and looking at that true grit and how successful they have been. And then I would say, yes, this is a permanent. So we announced we were going test optional in January 2020. And so we're here and beyond going to stay test optional. I would say that, like Linnell said, we're reviewing what that means and tweaking where we need to, especially when it comes to scholarships. Now that a lot of the scholarships at universities are based off of that ACT score for automatic merit, and looking at what that means for our students that are test optional. So looking at those are some things that we're going to be changing and tweaking a little bit as we move forward.
And our plan was to go, before COVID, was to go test optional for fall of 21. We did move that up to fall of 20. And so our incoming class did get notified, and we did review information based upon students without scores for this fall. But it is a permanent change for Missouri Western as well.
Yeah. So
I think a lot of universities are going to have to really consider that evaluation now that they're pushed that way. Can you really go back to not going and remaining test optional?
Yeah, and I mean, clearly, you know, the cancellation of testing dates this spring really prompted universities to embrace that philosophy. Like you said, many for fall of 20 and definitely fall of 21. But clearly the movement was well underway before this spring. And there's a couple of other things I wanted to mention on this slide, and that was the National Association of College Admissions Counseling, which is the national organization that MOACAC falls under that's hosting these events for you all. They released 2 things last month. The first one was an opportunity for colleges to sign a MOACAC test optional statement to say, what does test optional mean at my institution? And then also to a report on standardized testing to really challenge universities to really evaluate how they're using standardized tests and to make sure that it's the best use of determining admission and scholarships. So those are 2 big things that NACAC released related to this change. All right. So you may be wondering, how will a university determine admission without a test score? And, you know, I think a lot of these slides that are coming up, it's going to be, it depends on the college, but definitely as panelists here, we can share how our university is determining that. I know that there are universities that ask on the application for admission, are you applying as test optional? And they ask you to declare that to determine if you'll be evaluated as test optional. And then there's universities who won't ask that question on the application for admission. And instead, every single applicant to that university will be reviewed as test optional first, and then explore other admission review options if the test optional criteria is not met. So you can see on the slide here that we have up, here's some of the common items that are used to determine admission without a test score: your high school GPA, an essay, letters of recommendation, a holistic approach of looking at resume, talents, honors, work, experience, volunteerism, and interview. And so I think we'll each take a chance as a panelist to talk about how admission decisions are made at our universities as test optional. So at Southeast, there is no question on the application for admission. We review every applicant using our test optional guidelines, which is a 2.75 cumulative high school GPA. In addition, we look at the core courses that you've taken in high school, because for us, cumulative GPA with the core courses you've taken in high school, those are the two things that are the best indicator for your success in college. And so we do not have an essay, we do not have letters of recommendation. And so again, cumulative high school GPA and core curriculum.
I'll go ahead and go. So at UMKC, very similar. Basically, we look at your core GPA. So we are part of the UM system. The University of Missouri Kansas City is, along with 3 other schools. We do not ask if you want to be considered test optional. We consider every applicant test optional first. So if you meet our 2.75 core GPA, so that's 17 courses that we've identified as your core courses we want to see that you're successful in. And if you have a 2.75 core GPA, then those that we consider you test optional. And then similar, we do not require an essay. We do not require a letter of recommendation. The holistic approach, so if you don't meet the test optional criteria, then we kind of look at everything else that you have, you submitted, and if you do have a letter of rec that you want us to supply us with, we will review it, but it's not required. And then we also have different ways to apply to UMKC besides test optional. But speaking of test optional, yes, the 2.75 core GPA is what we evaluate.
Missouri Western, we will look first at the high school GPA to get full acceptance at Missouri Western. We look for a 2.7 cumulative GPA. We can look at a test score if you do not meet that 2.7, and a test score might be, there's a sliding scale that might be helpful in that. We do not require an essay or letter of recommendations either. So again, a 2.7 cumulative high school GPA is what Missouri Western looks for.
And before we move off this slide, Kim, real quick, which it's okay, you can leave that. Oh, there we go. Thank you. I just want to encourage you all to visit the universities that you're interested in, visit their admission sites. That's the best source of information to determine what their admission criteria is. Are they test optional? And how their test optional admission is evaluated and determined of their applicants. Another, I guess, there's another movement right now within college admissions related to something called test blind. We don't have that anywhere in our slides. But just wanted to mention, you may see some universities that promote that they are test blind. That means even if you send in your test scores, they will not use them for admission to their university. So that's something else that you may see when you're out there looking at admissions websites.
And yes, I would say definitely, I think all of us this is new for so many colleges and universities. So everybody's doing things a little bit differently. I can see that as time goes on, universities may tweak how they do it. We talked about that earlier. So definitely keep on top of and watch the university's admission sites to see how each one is handling it. I know as our colleagues across the state have talked I know there's little bits of changes here and there with all of us as far as how each of us are doing it. So yes, do lots of research on everyone to make sure that you're fully aware of what you need to be prepared for as you apply. And if you're a high school sophomore now, or a freshman on here, or even a junior, I think now is the perfect time for students in those lower grades to see the importance of your high school GPA, and that you put forth that effort to have that good GPA from the start, from your freshman year, because it's certainly going to make a difference when it comes time for college admission.
Definitely.
All right, so will I need to have a test score to be eligible for merit-based and other scholarships? So this is going to be very dependent on each individual college or university. So again, in addition to researching their admissions guidelines, also research their scholarship opportunities and the eligibility to qualify for scholarships using TestOptional. We'll give a chance for each panelist to share their scholarship approach. I will share that at Southeast Missouri State University, we do have over nearly 20 scholarships that we award with TestOptional criteria, and we just actually expanded that for fall of 21. We have one scholarship that does require a test score, and that is our Copper Dome at the $3,000 to $4,000 or the $4,000 to $5,000 range. We actually even have just added TestOptional criteria to qualify for our top $10,000 competitive scholarship. So I do feel like we're seeing a movement to more universities providing scholarship opportunities based on TestOptional, or maybe taking a need-based approach versus a merit-based approach to their scholarship criteria as well.
Yes, at the University of Missouri, Kansas City, very similar. We have scholarships that are what we consider automatic scholarships based off of merit, and it will include the ACT score, but we're adding language. So like I said, we're evaluating. We just launched new scholarships 2 years ago, and now we're switching them up a little bit, and those will be released here in the next couple of weeks of what those new, including TestOptional scholarships, will be. We have departmental scholarships at our departments. Each academic unit is also taking wind of what we're doing and adding new scholarships based off of your GPA versus just a test score. So I highly recommend go to those financial aid websites for those schools you're looking at and see what their scholarship opportunities are. I believe a lot of students are going to be able to take advantage of this because universities, again, have been forced to reevaluate, okay, if we're not basing this off of an ACT score, which isn't showing us the true grit and merit of a student, then let's look at this GPA and let's see what other options we have to help them financially and need-based.
At Missouri Western, we have a scholarship that was actually brand new this fall called the Griffin Guarantee Scholarship. This past, for students coming in this fall, it was based upon GPA and ACT, but for next fall, our base scholarships will be awarded off of GPA alone, with eligibility to get upgrades based on test scores and also upgrades based on Missouri A+. So we will take a look first, though, at a student's GPA to award those scholarships. And so you can get a merit-based automatic scholarship at Missouri Western solely based off of your high school GPA, again, with upgrades if you do have a test score that's 20 or above, and also upgrades if you have the Missouri A+, and that is on a sliding scale as well. So yes, obviously, you absolutely do not have to have the ACT or an SAT score to be eligible for a merit-based scholarship with our Griffin Guarantee.
Something else that we're seeing colleges do as well, as they're looking at their deadlines for scholarships, and with the current environment, I've seen universities extend their scholarship deadline right now to allow more time from a standardized test standpoint if it's still going to be a part of the scholarship program. So watch for deadline changes as well when you're looking at university scholarship web pages. So our next question to answer for you is, will some degree programs still require an ACT or SAT test score? Again, I will say it really depends on the university and the college and the academic program. I'm sure that there will be instances where an ACT or SAT could still be used for maybe placement in courses when you're being advised for coursework, or admission into degree programs. So at Southeast, when you're admitted to university, it doesn't guarantee admission to some specific degree programs. We have on our website degree maps, and on those degree maps, it does clearly state if there is additional admission requirements to the program that are separate from admission to the university. I will also mention that we are exploring, do we add test optional criteria for admission to our honors program at Southeast? And we are looking at alternatives for course placement that doesn't rely on an ACT or SAT score. And so I can tell you at Southeast, we aren't quite there yet with figuring out what those changes look like, but we're definitely collaborating across campus on how we can have alternate options to the ACT and SAT for those items.
And at UMKC, very similar to Linnell and the Southeast Missouri State, is we have it on our website which academic units may potentially require a ACT score. So the ones that come to mind really quickly are our 6-year medicine program, our School of Conservatory, and our School of Computer and Engineering. For fall 2020, they did require an ACT score, but for fall 2021, they are, if you are not able to take a test, they were allowing you admission to the university without, sorry, not university, we will admit you with a test, without a test score, but to those departments, they are reviewing them without a test score for fall 2021. So it's, I would say definitely pay attention, depending on what year you are in high school, of what the requirement is for that academic unit, because they may require an ACT score moving forward. So at UMKC right now, some of the programs that we do require an ACT score are not, or forgoing that for fall 2021. So definitely look out and do your research on those universities and their academic units that are going to require that ACT score.
Yes, we, and that was one of the things at Missouri Western that became a big source of consideration as we moved to test optional. Some of the degree programs, based on their accreditations, even with their accrediting of their programs, that was written into. So all of our programs have looked to see how they can move to a different sort of criteria away from the ACT or SAT. We do have 2 degree programs at this time that still will require an ACT or SAT, our education department and also our sports management program. But both of those departments are looking at other ways that they can change that criteria. So it could very well be by fall of 21 that those tests won't be needed, test scores won't be needed for admission into those programs. Again, another option, if you do, like for instance, at Missouri Western, if you enroll as a student at Missouri Western and then you get ready to decide on your degree program and want to declare that, you can take an ACT test here on campus as a residual, which means that ACT score then is just good for Missouri Western. And I'm sure all the other universities do something similar. So even if you would come in without a test score, you would have the opportunity to take that residual test here at the university that could then be used to get into a degree program if that was going to be required.
And we did have a question come in, students asking, when can we start applying for colleges? I would say, depending on what year you are, right now. So if it's your senior year, our application at the University of Missouri, Kansas City opened on August 1st. So you can go ahead and submit that application. Again, looking at where you're going and schools you want to apply for, go to their admissions sites to see when their applications open. But I believe most of them have opened within the first week of August. So definitely go check those out and see when their deadlines are.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, August 1st was mentioned. That is kind of the traditional date that applications do open for the upcoming fall semester. That's when the Common App opens. who of us here are Common App schools?
We are, UMKC is.
Okay, Southeast.
We are not currently a Common App school at Missouri Western.
Okay, Southeast does accept the Common App, and that did open on August 1st too.
And
All
one more
right.
question came in. Would we be able to apply now if we're a junior in high school?
If you're a junior in high school, applications would not be open yet for fall of 2022. I think out of the panelists here, I would be very surprised if there was any university that had their application open for fall of 2022. But definitely do your research on the web. All of the colleges that you're interested in applying to already, go ahead and send an email to their admissions office and ask them how soon will your fall of 22 application open. The other thing I would encourage you to do is when you reach out to them, make sure that you provide all of your contact information so they can add you as an interested student in their system. That way you'll continue to receive updates and information from that university, which will include when their application opens, their scholarship program, their admissions guidelines, and so you won't miss out on anything for those colleges that are in your selection set.
Linnell, our last screen, I think we all really covered as far as that GPA. I think we can probably talk in general terms though about that really that high school GPA. I know ours are all right around the same GPA, but there would be schools, or we do know of schools who would require a higher GPA for admittance without a test score. I don't know if either of you have any other additional information on that or we want to talk about, but again, it's important to look at each school's admissions website.
I do think it's important to add there is that we look at cumulative GPA, or just talking about the different types of GPAs that colleges could consider. So for those of you joining us, colleges could be looking at a core GPA, which I think that UMKC looks at. So they're going to take the courses you've taken. They're going to recalculate a GPA outside of what's on your transcript to come up with a core GPA. There's also universities who will take the cumulative GPA directly off of the high school transcript without recalculating it. And there's also universities who will accept the weighted GPA or whatever the highest GPA if there's an unweighted and weighted. So it's very important to find out what the universities that you're applying to will utilize for their GPA and what semester of GPA. So you'll hear colleges refer to the 6th semester GPA, which is the GPA at the end of your junior year. We will talk about the 7th semester GPA, which is in the middle of your senior year. And then we'll talk about your final and 8th semester GPA, which is when you graduate from Southeast, or from your high school. And if you are an early graduate, and someone who's graduating from high school in December or January, that 7th semester GPA would also be considered your final if that transcript does have a graduation date on there. Anything else that you all want to add related to the different ways we will review and evaluate GPAs off of transcripts?
I think you hit it right there on the head, is that make sure you understand which university that you're applying for, because that GPA might change depending on what university you're applying for. So at UMKC, if you submit your final transcript, or we look at that when you apply to the university, whether that's in November or if you apply in April, whatever we have is calculated because of what's listed on your transcript is what we will calculate your core with. But if you're able to send us your final transcript that has an updated grade, make sure you let us know, because we will reevaluate that core, and that could again affect scholarship opportunities where you now qualify for a higher amount of a scholarship and your admissions decision. So definitely make sure that you're aware of what universities are requiring for that GPA, what type of GPA they're looking at, and then make sure you're resubmitting your scores, your transcript, so that we can evaluate you and make that decision based off of the accurate final core GPA.
The other thing to take note of is that typically for admission, I think a lot of universities will consider any semester GPA cumulative, 6th, 7th, or 8th. But for scholarships, a lot of times universities will say that they won't consider final GPA. whatever the semester would have been at your school that met like the deadline of the scholarship. Sometimes they'll only consider 6th or 7th semester and not final. So just take note of the fine print, look at the terms and conditions of scholarship criteria to make sure, again, that you understand which GPA will be used for determination. Okay. All right, so next, each panelist is going to have a slide to talk about our university. So we hope we gave you really good background information of what test optional is, why universities are moving to test optional for admission and or scholarships. And so I'm up first with Southeast, and I can tell you that at Southeast, you are gonna build a resume. We are a multi-campus system. We have locations in Cape Girardeau, Kennett, Poplar Bluff, and Sikeston, Missouri, and we have online degree programs. The picture there in the top right corner shows our campus nestled right in downtown Cape Girardeau. We have a river campus that is dedicated to the arts that is about 1.5 miles from the main campus there, and it's right on the banks of the Mississippi River. We have 145 degree programs. We want you to find your flock at Southeast with over 200 student organizations, 15 Division I NCAA athletic teams. Right now, our sports, we're hoping that winter will happen. Our fall sports are delayed to spring. We also have 20 club sports, including esports. I can tell you right now, in this current environment, esports is flourishing. Students can still engage and compete in esports. So we see just a ton of students that are getting involved with that program that we have. You are also going to be a part of a community at Southeast. We have 18 residence halls and 16 dining facilities. Our pet-friendly community is just booming. It's 3 times the size it was last year. You know, right now in the current environment, we talk a lot about Red Hawks resilience and self-care, and having your, you know, your pet with you is something that can really help with that self-care standpoint. So we're excited for that community to be available for our students. And we award $20 million in scholarships annually. So you can see a few things here. We are test optional at a 2.75. We have the Will to Do Award, where eligible Missouri Pell students at a 2.75 GPA will pay $0 in tuition and general fees. Our Copper Dome Scholarship, 70% of our students are eligible. We super score. We're test optional. We just expanded that. Previously, you could only get a max of 1,000. Now it's 3,000 that you can get test optional with Copper Dome. It's stackable, progressive values. For our application, there is no application fee, no test scores, no essay, and you can self-report your academic record. And then we do have some fall visit days. I saw that a question had came in about visiting campus. We are offering virtual opportunities and in person. So these 3 dates are in-person visit days. Following each of these, we're going to have a week of virtual exploration events that you can join. So 2 websites to share: cmo.edu/visit, which is where you can sign up for an in-person campus experience or one of the virtual events that we're hosting, and then cmo.edu/apply, which is where you can apply for admission for the spring of 21, summer of 21, and fall of 21 terms are open on our application right now. So that's just a little bit about Southeast, and I will pass it over to Alora at UMKC.
Sorry about that, everyone. I'm back.
Yay.
Gotta love technology. So at University of Missouri, Kansas City, like I said, we're test optional, began January 2020 and will continue beyond here. We've mentioned that our core GPA requirement is a 2.75. So again, there are 17 courses that you will take while you were in high school that we will evaluate and calculate a core GPA score for you. I mentioned we have automatic admission. So if you submit an ACT score and you meet to test optional, you're automatically admitted off of self-reported data. And then we have competitive admission. So again, I mentioned some of those academic units like our 6-year medicine program, our School of Computer Engineering program. If you supply that self-reported data, that is competitive, but they will review you and there's an interview process similar to our School of Conservatory. I wanted to let you know that UMKC also is super scoring ACT scores. So if you do take the ACT and you want to be considered with that, UMKC does super scores, and we have scholarships that are going to incorporate the new super scored score. Our application fee is $45. Like I mentioned earlier in the presentation tonight, we do not require an essay or recommendation letters or things like that, unless it's down to the specific academic unit that you're applying for. And we do have application fee waivers available for those that qualify on the application while you're submitting it. It will go through all of the qualifications that we waive application fees for. And then lastly, our beautiful campus. You can see some images here of our campus. And my favorite is the blue sky and the Kansas City in blue. When you graduate from our university, the city takes it in celebrating that with you. And so this is an image we had in Kansas City the month of May during our graduation for our graduates. And so come check us out. We offer in-person visits daily, Monday through Friday. We also offer virtual. I think COVID again pushed us into a new realm of where we offer more virtual opportunities for you. You can take a in-person campus tour or virtual campus tour, or you can do a self-guided campus tour through a link in an app that we have for you. And then our open house days, Discover UMKC days. The next one's coming up next week, September 21st to 25th. That will be done virtually, where you're connecting with current students and academic units and faculty to highlight who we are at UMKC. So definitely come check us out on our website, where you can find all of this, test optional requirements, visit days, all of that at umkc.edu/admissions.
Awesome. I will talk lastly about Missouri Western. We have some brand new initiatives going on at Missouri Western that I want to talk about, some things that just started this fall that we're super excited for. We now offer what we call Gold Fridays. So Missouri Western has most of our classes are done Monday through Thursday. That allows Fridays to be used for a variety of things. We have students who are doing lab time. Some of our classes do meet on Fridays. The majority do not. We have students who use Fridays to study. We have students who use Fridays to work. So this is a new model for us. We're really excited about our Gold Fridays. Our students really seem to be liking that. So we're excited for that. Linnell mentioned esports. Esports is brand new to us this year. And yes, it is oh so popular. And we are in the midst of building a brand new esports arena in our union that will be done this fall. So we're excited about that. We have a varsity team, and then we also have club teams. So that's something new we're offering. Another thing we're offering is called the Center for Service, and we are actually, it's an opportunity for students to earn credit hours, free credit hours for doing volunteer service within the community. Actually, a student coming in with a Missouri A+ will get one free credit hour when they enter, and we get their transcript indicating that they have received the A+. The other thing that I had mentioned earlier with our scholarships is our Griffin Guarantee Scholarship. Again, new to us this fall. This scholarship is a 4-year scholarship that actually grows as you earn credit hours. It's also guaranteed. So as long as you maintain a 2.0 GPA, remain in good academic standing, and are full-time, you will not lose this merit-based scholarship. After you earn 30 credit hours, your base scholarship will go up by $1,000. After 60 hours, it goes up by $500. And after 90 hours, it goes up another $500. So your scholarship by your senior year or over your 4 years actually grows by $4,500 from your initial amount. So we're excited about that. Like I mentioned earlier, that scholarship will be awarded based off of GPA, and you are eligible for upgrades with ACT or SAT scores, and also for upgrades with your Missouri A+. We are located in St. Joseph. Just to mention where we're at, we're in St. Joseph. We're an hour north of Kansas City on I-29. We are offering daily visits. We offer, have 4 different options every day for in-person visits. Our student ambassadors are here and excited to take you on a campus tour. And we also offer virtual visits Tuesday through Thursday. That's a late afternoon time. You can sign up for that. Our application is open. We are test optional. 2.7 cumulative high school GPA will get you automatic admission into Missouri Western, no essay, and no application fee for our to apply at Missouri Western. And we do have some showcase days coming up. We are moving our big showcase days to virtual this year, but Saturday, October 3rd will be our first one. It will be live and interactive, and students will be giving tours. And so if you can join us for that, we would love for you to do that no matter where you're at. Get your cup of joe and your best jammies and join us on Saturday, October 3rd, or again on Saturday, November 7th. We will be offering that. You can visit us at missouriwestern.edu/admissions, and we would love to have you come for a visit. Alora, did anyone else have any questions?
We do. We have two. One of them is, which days can we visit campus in the fall? So I think you just went over yours, Kim. At UMKC, the in-person visit, which is a presentation and campus tour, that's Monday through Friday. You can register for those on our website at admissions, UMKC/admissions. We also offer campus tour onlys, where you don't get the presentation, but you just want a current ambassador to take you around campus, show you what we have available. You can sign up for that as well.
And then I'll just add to that again, cmo.edu/visit. That's where you can find out about all of our virtual and in-person visit opportunities.
I would just really encourage you to do visits now. I think we can all speak for what the spring was like. I know we had students who enrolled here and came to campus this fall who'd never been on campus yet. And that campus visit is so, so important. That opportunity for you to be on campus around the students and just to get that feeling of, okay, yes, this is where I belong. And in the current environment with COVID, we're really all just not sure how things may go as the year progresses. So I would encourage you to take visits as early and as to as many schools as you're interested in as early as possible.
I definitely agree. I think the next question is for me, since UMKC does require an application fee unless you have a fee waiver. And so the question was, do you accept the NACAC fee waiver or only use your internal form? So when you're submitting the application, you would just select the NACAC or the application fee, the documents that you submitted for NACAC to qualify for their fee waiver. You would upload that information, and that's how we waive your application fee at UMKC.
I do see a question on here too related to test optional and dual enrollment students. So again, each university may have different dual enrollment guidelines. Ours is based on GPA even for dual enrollment, but I will say there is some ACT subscore, that information that was used for placement, like in math courses. As an alternative, we are evaluating courses taken in high school and GPA in those courses to replace an ACT subscore for dual enrollment course placement at Southeast.
And our dual enrollment is, I'm sure they're going to alter how they're doing that for this fall. I know they were looking at some test scores, but like I said, with this being new for a lot of us, all of those sorts of things are under review.
Kim, can you put our introduction slide back up that has our email addresses on there? Since we have a couple of minutes left, anyone that's here with us, feel free to jot down our name and email. If you have any questions that you want to send directly to any of us, please do so.
Let me get back to my share screen.
And for those of you joining us tonight, I just want to commend you. I think we've had some students that are juniors in high school. Commend yourself, give yourself a round of applause for taking advantage of this access to universities here, taking advantage of the knowledge that we do have, because you're ahead of the game. So kudos to you and doing the research and thinking about ways to be more versatile when you're applying to university. So again, hats off, round of applause for you guys joining us tonight.
Yes. I see one more question on here too, related to if you've submitted a test score and then you obtain a higher test score, Can a student resubmit an improved test score to better position for admission and scholarships? I know the answer for us is yes. Every time we get new information on a student, we will reevaluate admission and scholarships with that new information.
Yes, that is the exact same at UMKC. Like I was saying, if you submit, you take your super score. So every time you take the ACT or you take a different section of that ACT, we will take those and reevaluate your scholarships and admission at UMKC.
Yes, same for us as well.
I think we're at 6:45.
Awesome. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. I do want to thank our presenters for joining us tonight and giving us this valuable information on what it means to be test optional. We want to thank all of you for attending as well. After you close this window, there will be a very quick 4-question survey. If you would please fill that out for us. We appreciate any feedback you can give us. And don't forget to sign up for more sessions at www.moacac.org. And remember that this recording will be available within about a week at that same website, moacac.org. Thank you again.
Good night, everyone.